Hey Track Gang, what's going on in this week's episode of the Boeville in Newtown? Well, it's right over here. Stand by and we'll get into what's happening this week. Well, hello Track Gang, and welcome to episode 9 for 2023. It happens to be, believe it or not, but it's only March the 6th. I'm actually a little bit ahead of schedule, give or take. I actually have uploaded episode 8, which, well, not uploaded, but I've got it on the computer already. I'm getting ready to edit that. Because I wanted that to be specifically on the modifications of the bridge deck, the bridge girders and the bridge deck, which is done. I'm now working on, I took apart the truss the other night. I'm going to show you all of what's been going on with the truss because it's in pieces, and explain what I'm doing with it. But I also got a mail call today from one of my longtime supporters, Mr. Santa Fe Bob, who was gracious enough to send me some parts. I think it really came down to, it's like, gee, maybe Ray can use this to modify the bridge. Well, I had already I'm sorry, I went off camera. I'm moving some things around here. I really wasn't prepared to show the box. But anyway, I've already opened the box. So we're going to just swing over here a minute, and I'm going to show you what's in here. Now, like I said, some of this was this would have been a great plan B, I think, if plan A would have failed. But it gives me something to use for a couple other projects that are coming down the line. Not so much with the expansion, but I've got some things over at Newton's Farm that I want to, or Newton's Hill that I want to work on. So I've got bridge girders, the Atlas ones, which are great. These come in real handy. I had actually modified 2 of them up underneath of the road on Wykert Hill. And one of the other things was these 3-inch bridge piers. These are also known as number 12s. I already opened, there's actually 3 boxes of these, which was great. And there's 4 to a box. I did look at this to put them underneath of the modified bridge. They're going to take a little bit of modification to get them to work. Not a big deal, not a huge deal. I had actually, believe it or not, had thought about using the Atlas bridge piers in the past and modifying them. Now, one of the other things that Santa Fe Bob sent me, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention it, is a set of Code 100 to Code 83 rail joiners. I didn't know that they made these, and I don't even have them on camera. I did not know that they made transition rail joiners. I was messing with Jason, I guess it was about a year ago or so, or maybe it was Rick, about the fact that you can make your own Code 83 or other type of rail joint if you're going from 100 to 83 or 83 to 70 or 70 to 55 in HO scale, or any scale really, but specifically HO. We'll go with those, the Code 100, Code 87, or the Code 83, the Code 70, Code 55. What you do to make what they call a compromise joint is put the rail joiner on the larger rail and then flatten the opposite end, and then put the other rail with the smaller code on top of it, lining up the inside flange. I've never done it. I've seen it done before. I've heard about it being done. Like I said, I've never done it. And then, of course, Atlas came out with these things that they call transition joiners, so you don't have to do it that way. If you want to buy them. If you don't want to buy them, if you're in a pinch, you just go ahead and take a whatever one that you've got, you slide it on the larger rail, smash the other side, and go from there. You have to solder it, though. That's the key. You know, once you get it flattened and you get it lined up, then you have to solder the smaller rail to the rail joint. But anyway, I greatly appreciate that. That is going to be extremely helpful today. Well, not today, but for this project and for a couple of the future projects that I have in mind. So, let's get down here to the table and let's discuss what's been happening with with this Kitbash. All right, so let me explain what we've had going on here to start off with. I don't have the bridge deck or the bridge girder over here at the moment because I've actually got it sitting over at the layout, out of the way, out of harm's way, so I could go ahead and work on the truss. Now, as you can see, the truss is broken down into a couple of parts here. The first part would be the upper superstructure, what I'm going to call the upper part, and then this is the section that goes on the bridge part, or the bridge deck part. Now, one of the things that I discussed with Mr. Bailey over at the Foltz Bailey Model Railroad, because he had him and JD both, but I was talking to Rick the other night because I guess it's been about 2 weeks ago, I actually helped Nisi with her Atlas Kato S unit that was coming apart. I showed her, or basically via Zoom or via StreamYard, showed her and talked her through how to get it fixed, because it was coming apart on her, and I had the same issue with mine. So from experience, I helped her out. Well, the thing is all of the Sidetrack Sunday guys can actually get into, if somebody opens up a stream, you can get in. That's one of the reasons why we talk about trying to lock the back door. Obviously, we didn't bother locking the back door the other night. So anyway, long story short, I was talking to him after I helped Nisi out, and he had told me that when I built my bridge, I goofed. This is one of the bridge deck ears, and as you can see, you've got these ears here. Well, what was supposed to happen, I had actually glued mine to the outside, kind of like this. What was supposed to happen is you were supposed to cut a slot, and then this is supposed to slide up inside. Well, like I said, I never did that. So I figured, well, I'm basically rebuilding the bridge. Let's do it the right way this time, which created a bit of a problem. I noticed that a lot of my upright beams or box girders were in bad shape. And when I tried to go in and make that modification, that slot, they started coming apart on me. So I went into my bag of parts and I spliced, because I had enough of these left over, I went ahead and I spliced this piece back on, but I made the modification first, and then I glued this on. So this is now one piece. Now, obviously, this is too tall. I'm going to have to take a little bit off the upper part of it, but that's not a big deal. One of the other things that's not going to happen this time around is I'm not going to modify the beam, those beams, to actually sit inside of this beam. They're actually going to get glued to the top of it. I think it's going to be a better look, and I think it's going to be better off in the long run, because these things, let's put it this way, these things have driven me nuts. I actually had one, and it's sitting way over here. If you notice, there's two of the unpainted pieces. That's because this one was in such bad shape, I had to cut it down on both ends. And I luckily had just enough parts to be able to fix it. So these here should be pretty close to being dry. So we are, yep. That one there goes towards the back. And my wonderful, if I could ever figure out how to get them the line or the link back up correctly. Alright, so this one here should now be done. That's one of the nice things. I was just getting ready to say, it's one of the nice things with this plastic is you can't glue to them. Well, yeah, not so much. I just glued this one somehow or other. Chisel tip. Absolutely indispensable. We mentioned it when we built these things originally, that they were indispensable. And this is the reason why. In case you make a mistake and you glue something you're not supposed to. Or you have to take something apart, which I've obviously had to do. Alright, so I'm going to put my right way magnets back in their box before I lose them again. Hey, I actually got that one to line up the right way this time. Alright. I have no idea why this one does not want to go back into its freaking case. There it goes. Alright, so that's all done. And I've got all sorts of scroodles of bits and pieces laying around here now that I've got to clean up. So the next part is obviously going to be bringing the bridge deck back over here and actually lining the base up, because I want to line that up first, put the uprights in the spots there, put the uprights where they belong, glue them in place, and then bring this back on top and glue it in place with the uprights, making sure that everything is square. And I've got to do that twice, and then the part after that is going to be going back and fixing the parts that I broke before, which I got to figure out how the heck to get these darn things off the sprue. These here, they are so thin and so fragile. I've got to figure out how to get them off, but I'll work on that, hopefully without breaking them. Now, one of the other things I did do is I've cut out all of one of those underbracing pieces, these guys, and I actually had them laid across the bridge the other night, and I've got enough parts to where I can do both what I wanted to do on top and still do what I wanted underneath the bridge, which I think is going to be unique if I can get it to work. Now, one of the issues I do have is with that piece of aluminum being up underneath there now, it doesn't line up 100%. And I realize that this is a little bright, but I've got the light on, so. But with the way that is, I'm going to try and put those braces back underneath. But first thing I'm going to do before I even go back to gluing anything else is I'm going to clean this mess up a little bit so that I've got a nice clean work area to work on. Because right now this is an absolute disaster, and yeah, I'm going to end up gluing things together that shouldn't be glued. So we'll be back. All right, gang. Another change, I guess. I have been fighting with this thing. Not that I didn't fight with it the first time that I built it, But this time around, it's really fighting me. I think I already talked about the fact that I went ahead and took some of the spare parts that I had and actually redid some of these uprights because they were way too short after I got done with the manipulate, because I had to try and square things back up. They ended up being short. I ended up with a problem. And that issue was the fact that even after I did that, the second time around, I did the same thing because I figured I could just glue these uprights to the beam and the upper beam. That didn't work out. As I was trying to get on the front side, as I was trying to get those uprights glued to the beam, I was actually gluing them to the bridge deck. Obviously, that's not what we want because I want this thing to be somewhat removable. So I switched gears, came up with a new plan. And we're going to show what that new plan is in the long run, but for right now I'm going to try to explain it. The back truss is glued to the deck. It's not going to come off. I just started gluing this upper truss to the uprights and to the other beam because these uprights are too short now. So they won't go up inside the beam or down inside the beam. They're basically going to be glued to the beam or to the girder, whatever you want to call it. So with that being said, because of the fact of the issues that I was having to trying to do this on the front side, I just decided, you know what, we're going to glue this thing to the deck and we're going to be done. Like I said, I just got finished gluing one part of the truss on the far end here. I got to glue the near end, and then I'm going to kind of make sure that the uprights line up where I want them, or where they're supposed to be, and then they're going to get glued in place. Then I can start working on the front truss. Now, the front truss will be removable. And what I'm going to do is the front truss will be removable along with the top. So what's going to happen is the top portion of the truss and the front side is all going to be one piece. And it's going to link up and connect to the back with just like little ears or whatever you want to call them. Like I said, when I get to that point, I'll show you what I'm doing. But it's going to literally hold everything square. But if I need to take it apart for some reason, like to clean track or fix a derailment or something like that, I can get in there and do that work. But the rear truss is going to be permanent. There's no two ways about it. I can't get around that now. I guess if I really wanted to, I could go back out to Central Valley and get these little uprights, these guys. But I've got enough parts here that I can manipulate it, so that's the way we're going to go. So I'm going to finish gluing this thing together on this side, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Can I call victory? I've still got to glue the forward. This is the front truss. I still have to glue the uprights to it. Yeah. I had to do a little bit of trimming to get it into the beam, the bottom beam and the top beam. But I got it all in there, and for the most part, the structure is somewhat straight. I've already taken some measurements so I can start working on the upper boxing. So I kind of know what I need up there. But the only thing I got to do is I just got to glue the uprights to the girder here, and then this piece, this front piece will be removable. I'll call that a win. Amazingly enough. So, on to the next. Okay, Trent Gang. Oops. Oh, sorry, I just kicked the tripod. This is pretty much done. The only thing I do still want to do, I'm going to try and, I know this is not the way to do this, but hey. The one thing I still want to do is I want to fill in these on both ends. Of course, you can't see this one because it's dark. I put it in upside down. It's not a big deal because they're perfectly square anyways. I still want to put in some X bracing across the top, and I still have to put the X bracing on the side. But we all know that this X bracing that goes on the sides of this thing are extremely thin, and I do not want to put them in there right now because I do not want to break them. What I'm going to do up top, and I'm going to have to do some modification, and I will show that eventually, is I'm going to use the braces that were supposed to go underneath. And I think I've talked about this, and if I have, sorry. It's been a rough week. I've worked basically 3 double shifts the last couple of days, so it's now Wednesday. Basically worked double shifts. Was in overnight, came in during the day. So, at any rate, I'm going to have to modify these to get them to fit in the spaces here. Not a big deal. I've got plenty of parts because of what Central Valley sent. So we've got a decent shot of the side. Let's take a look at the end. And we'll take a look at what would be the south end, or the north end rather. So this would be the north end of the bridge. And I am going to kind of pan up here a little bit. Now, as you can tell down the center, originally the pieces that are painted were the ones that were on the original 150-foot bridge that I had. I cut the ends of them off, trying to see if I think I used everything I had, because there was 3 of them in the bridge, and then I had 3 spares, and I've used everything. I cut the edge off, so that way I could make the length here now, because it's a lot wider than what it had been. This is now at the top 4 7/8 inches from outside to outside. So I'm quite pleased. I mean, this thing has been a sucker. There's no question. You know, when you're trying to kit bash something that's this intricate, it's a bit of a pain. But I'm actually interested to see what this thing looks like on the layout. So maybe we'll go do that for a minute. So we'll be back. Well, outside of needing a good coat of paint, wow, this thing looks absolutely awesome sitting there. That really, that took a what was going to be a signature scene and just took it to the next level. Because if you all remember, shoot, I just noticed that the front side of this, somehow or other, popped out, which isn't a problem because the front and the top are removable. The back is not. The back is glued, but the front and the top are loose. So what happens is when I go to pull this, if I decide I want to do work on this, I just lift up on the front and the top will come with it. But yeah, once I detail this thing up and finish putting the cross bracing in, that looks absolutely incredible sitting there. Holy moly. Let's get an end shot here, or a semi-end shot, because I'm not going to try and take the camera off the tripod, because I'm afraid I'll mess things up too much. It'll get a little too shaky. But wow, once that thing is completely painted green, that is going to look freaking awesome sitting there. And the other thing is too, is I still have to make some modifications to the rear deck. And I also have to, I've got a couple other things I want to do. I've got, like I mentioned, the bridge piers. I did start messing with those. So, but that's freaking nuts. Alright. Alright, Track Gang, well, that's going to do it for this episode and part 4 of the bridge rebuild. So, It looks like there's going to be a part 5 because obviously I'm not done with this thing yet. So you all know the deal. Wait for the high vault. Green tracks ahead. We'll catch you all next time. Be safe. God bless. We will see you. Oh, one thing to note. Don't forget, Sidetrack Sunday this week is on Rick's channel. So we'll catch you all next time. See ya.